Mr Deputy Speaker, I rise on the adjournment tonight to condemn the comments of Treasurer Gutwin and Minister Jensch in question time today. The Greens advocate strongly and consistently for peace and non-violence and condemn acts and threats of violence unequivocally. Any threats to Mr Daniel Hackett or his family are completely unacceptable. And on behalf of the Greens, I condemn any person who has made these threats in the strongest possible terms. Mr Deputy Speaker, the Greens have a long history of walking this walk. When it was reported that a One Nation candidate's car was vandalised earlier this year, we condemned this behaviour. Leadership means condemning violence or threats of violence against anyone, and that includes those of different political beliefs. And what about the Liberals, Mr Deputy Speaker? When a Tarkine protest camp was attacked earlier this year and protesters were threatened and had their property stolen and urinated on, the Liberals refused to make any comment other than that the police would investigate the alleged incident. And this, regrettably, Mr Deputy Speaker, shows that where many on the Conservative side of politics stand. It is hard to escape the conclusion that they want some voters to feel violently towards protesters or sympathise with violence against protesters. So they refuse to condemn this action. This is not leadership, Mr Deputy Speaker. By refusing to condemn this behaviour against peaceful protesters, the Liberals provided tacit endorsement of it. An endorsement that is amplified by serious overinflation using words like eco-terrorists. As we know, that is a factually false statement, as terrorism, eco or otherwise, involves acts of violence. Someone is not a terrorist by virtue of the fact that they are protesting. This inflammatory language, Mr Deputy Speaker, incites violence against others, and by not condemning it when it happens, the Liberals are culpable twice over. To be trying to implicate the Greens in any threats to Mr Hackett, threats that we consider unacceptable and condemn, is just more opportunistic garbage. I'll also say this. Mr Hackett is not responsible for the disgraceful authoritarian expressions of interest and RAA process. It is this Liberal government, Madam Speaker. This government has deliberately, cynically, and with intent to divide the community, pursued the corruption of process that has led to deep community anger over Lake Malbina and the broader issue of the privatisation of public lands. To accuse people of being bullies by raising their democratic voices and pursuing their lawful appeal rights is just another attempt to generate division and anger. This government, Madam Speaker, has the power to reduce hostility in the community by halting the hawking off of community assets and fixing this corrupted process, this expressions of interest process that currently exists. And I'll wind up with this, Madam Speaker. I did say at a recent event at Wild Island Gallery that I thought it was legitimate to ask hard questions of proponents in the expressions of interest process. It is legitimate to put them in the public spotlight, Madam Speaker. That is how we won Ralph's Bay in large part, Madam Speaker, because we put the spotlight on Lang Walker. And when John Gay was trashing Tasmania through Guns Limited, people who love the forests here and democracy, we put the spotlight on John Gay. So, Madam Speaker, I did ask Mr Jensch this morning for an apology for accusing me personally of inciting violence. He hasn't apologised, and to be honest, I don't expect one. But it is deeply unfortunate and does not progress the debate when we ask serious questions being asked by a whole broad cross-section of stakeholders in relation to the expressions of interest process when the Minister for Parks devolves to shouting, accusing people of being bullies, accusing people of being intimidating, and his colleague accuses people of inciting violence. It's unacceptable, Madam Deputy Speaker, and surely in this place we should be above that. It would be terrific if the Treasurer, Minister for Parks, would just get up and answer a question on these issues. But instead of doing that, he devolves to deflection and accuses us of somehow being responsible for Mr Hackett's suffering. We are not. If Mr Hackett is cranky with anyone for the situation that he is in, he should look to his colleagues in the Liberals and their corrupted expressions of interest process to privatise public lands.